You've tuned into Books, Business, and Beyond, the show that teaches you how to maximize your income from your book to create the lifestyle you want. Now here's your host, the girl who loves Mexican food and taking on new challenges, Shelley Hitz, and her partner in success, Kristen Eckstein.
Hi, and welcome back to this episode of Books, Business, and Beyond. This is Shelley Hitz, your co-host, and I'm here with my amazing co-host, Kristen Joy. Kristen, how are you today?
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
I am doing wonderful, and we have an amazing guest with us as well. We have Joel Friedlander, and I got connected with Joel years ago and have been following his blog since. He is an expert in self-publishing, but Joel, you have been doing publishing for authors and services for a long time. I noticed in your bio you've owned Marion Bookworks since 1994, so you just celebrated 20 years, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly right, Shelley. Marin Bookworks, we're here in lovely Marin County, California.
Awesome. And I love the fact that you're a self-published author yourself. You practice what you teach, and you do it yourself as well. And you have a very popular blog, thebookdesigner.com, and the bio I saw, it said you had 500 articles. Are you up to more than that now?
Well, I did have 500 articles. I believe there are about 1,400 now, Shelley.
Yeah.
Last time I looked, yeah.
I had a feeling this was outdated. So yeah, I mean, 1,400 articles on your blog. That is awesome. Tons and tons of great content. So we're really, really excited to get into this episode and pick your brain on book publishing and especially just the self-publishing realm. I know you're just an expert on putting the book together and getting it ready and having a quality product. So what would be a tip that you would have for authors that are looking at self-publishing or maybe have even already published a book as far as really putting out a quality product?
Yeah, that's a great question. I started self-publishing in 1986. I self-published my first book, and I was working in the publishing industry at the time, so I kind of really knew how books were created. I was a production director for a publishing company, so I knew what a book was supposed to look like. Now, when I started blogging in 2009, I realized a lot of authors who had rushed out there to publish their own books didn't really have a clear idea of what that book was supposed to look like, and they were just missing really critical details. And the reason it's important, I mean, if you're just publishing it to give it away to your family and friends, hey, that's fine. You could do whatever you want to and have fun. But, if you want to sell the book, you got to realize you're going to be dealing with a lot of people in the book publishing business who know what a book is supposed to look like. So if you have your page numbers in the wrong place, or, instead of page 1 being on the right, it's been on the left, every single professional in the publishing industry is going to notice that. And they're going to know that they're looking at a book that wasn't professionally put together. And, there's a lot of books being published. There's no real good reason for an author to put themselves behind, cripple their own efforts by doing stuff like that when it's really easy to do it the right way.
Yeah. What would you say are maybe the top 3 mistakes you see self-published authors making with their books?
Well, in terms of the physical construction of the book, this only applies really to authors who are doing their own formatting and layout, like for a print book. And so if you're doing it yourself, it's maybe you're doing it in Microsoft Word and you don't know how to turn those running heads on and off in different sections of the book. And all of a sudden you've got copyright pages or chapter opening pages with running heads on them. And you just go to press because you don't know how else to fix it. It's clearly not a good idea, and it's going to make your book look very unprofessional. Another thing is people get into picking like very strange type fonts. And, printed books have been around for about 500 or 600 years. And we've been kind of gradually over the centuries perfecting the way to display long documents to readers in the best way. And so we have these kind of conventions in bookmaking about how these things are done. And, some of these very strange fonts people use just really give me a headache. They make my head hurt. I can't read it.
Oh,
come on. Why are you doing that to me?
I saw a bumper sticker once that said "Kill Comic Sans," and I have to agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I never want to see that font again. I mean, unless you're publishing a comic book, and then use it all you want. Come on, these fonts have specific things, and I also think the same thing is pretty much true for books you're selling in America. For authors who decide that it's more cool to have a reg right margin instead of fully justifying the text in the book. Depending on what kind of book you're doing, that can either look okay if it's like a book about gardening and you got lots of pictures and stuff. But if it's a regular, like a novel you're supposed to read, that I think your readers are going to find that uncomfortable because they're just not used to seeing a book like that.
Yeah, so true. And I'm sure, Kristen, you've seen some of those same mistakes as well when you were doing your Done For You services.
When I was doing Done For You, I used to have very long, drawn out, loud arguments with authors specifically about fonts and ragged right. And I finally had to tell a couple of them, look, you want to sabotage your success and your readership, you go right ahead. I'm taking my name off this book. That's how, like, if it wasn't up to my standards of quality, my company name was not on it. And we did probably a dozen books that way that authors were just sticklers and not knowing any better. And guess what? Their books don't sell.
Yeah, it's pretty hard. I mean, it's like the cover, and cover is really important. I mean, the cover is even more important, and it just drives me crazy when a lot of self-publishers want to do the stuff themselves. They're really into the DIY part. Yeah, I can do it all now. I could be a typesetter and a cover designer and an editor and everything. And then they just create a cover that has absolutely no interest. You can't read it. It's got like 42 images on it because, hey, after all, they were all important pieces in the book. Nobody else knows that. That's not what a book cover is about. It's not supposed to be an expression of how the author feels about her own book. That's irrelevant. The book cover is supposed to be something that appeals directly to the most likely readers of that book as something they might stop them and get them interested in it. It's consumer product packaging.
In fact, for those of you listening, if you missed episode 9, go back and listen to episode 9 of this podcast, How to Make Your Cover Sell More Books, because we talk about that specific thing.
Yeah, and in that episode, I actually linked to some of your book cover awards that you give out, Joel, because it just gives, authors an idea of some different covers. And do you want to talk a little bit about what you do with that?
Hey, that is one of the most fun things I do every month. And we just published the most recent one today, for all the covers that were submitted in the month of January.
Awesome.
So we gather them all up. Everybody sent in covers in January. We had about 120 or 130 covers. And, everybody has to credit who designed the cover. This is something that's unusual on the internet. It's one of the only places you can actually look at book covers and see who designed them. And so it's become, kind of as an offshoot, an unintended consequence, you might say. It's become like a little shopping mall for book cover designers. You can go there.
I was just going to say that. I didn't realize.
Yeah, there's so many different designers. And of course, we've been doing this for a couple of years now, so there's thousands of covers. It's awesome. And I have people tell me all the time, I found my book cover designer by reading your posts. Anyway, so we look at all the covers, and then I critique almost every one. The ones that are designed by the authors who really have no artistic background or training in graphic arts, you can see them a mile away. They're a total disaster. You can't read them. You have no idea what the images are about, what they're trying to express, or they're just totally boring. It's like a picture and a couple of words, and that's supposed to be a book cover. But, a book cover is actually a really highly specialized form of graphic design, and the people who do this professionally know that. They know how to lead your eye around. They know where to focus it. They know how to communicate a certain tone of voice that you're going to find in the book, and they know how to create something that's really going to hook you into the story because it's so darn exciting, you want to see what happens next. So that's another area where self-publishers really need to rely on a professional that they can work with, not Aunt Louise. Nothing against Aunt Louise, but you want a real professional book cover designer to do your book cover.
Exactly. And I know Chris and I both agree. It's like your first impression that you have, and it's so easy for people to click away. The market is getting more crowded every day. And so one way to make yourself stand out is by a high quality book cover. And if you've self-published, that's something you can update. So even if you started off in one direction, you can always go back, go to Joel's site, find a designer, or go to some other places and find a high quality book designer, book cover designer, and get it updated. And you don't have to stick with what you have if you self-publish. So that's definitely cool to know that a lot of people are finding their book cover designers on your site as well.
Well, listen, that was a great idea what you just said, Shelley, because I've got lots and lots of email from people who tell me, like I changed the cover of my book and the sales took off. I'm not selling cover design services. I'm just saying it's a fact. I get these emails all the time because, sometimes people will enter their cover in the contest and I kind of have to tell them, it's not very good. Of course, we don't like doing that, but, somehow we always manage to look at the traffic accidents when we're on the freeway, don't we? So, that's what's going on there. I mean, there's a lot of car wrecks in our competition. So, people then take that and they go and hire somebody and they get a really great cover. They put it on the book and it makes a huge difference. So I don't see why you wouldn't want to. It's hard enough selling books. Trust me, this is not an easy thing to do. Why make it harder for yourself? Give yourself every advantage you can. That's my message to self-publishers. You can compete with big publishers, but you have to really pay attention to the details to do that.
Yes, and one of your brand new books that you have out is just packed full of resources. We're talking about resources for book designers and all of that, but you have a new book out. Could you tell us a little bit about this book and what caused you to want to put it together?
This book was an amazing project. My friend Betty Sargent, who was in traditional publishing for 30 years, ran some very large publishing houses. She was the executive editor at William Morrow, for instance. She came to me with this idea and she said, there's no resource guide. Why don't we do this together? And I said, Betty, the minute you said that, I realized, there's a place in the market. People need this. I know you probably get the same kind of questions I get, Shelley, like, people are always looking for resources. How can I find an editor? How the heck do you do that? Maybe it's somebody who's a teacher or a car executive or something. How would they know how to find an editor? It just makes sense.
Right.
So one of the things I'm doing all the time is sending out referrals, resources. So we sat down and we got the help of some really crack researchers, and we put together a book we call the Self-Publisher's Ultimate Resource Guide. It's got almost 1,000 links to every kind of resource you might need in getting a book ready, marketing it, publishing it. And it's all divided into categories so people are easy to find. So we got the developmental editors in one category, the copy editors and proofreaders in another category. And all of these listings have been kind of curated and verified. In other words, I'm not saying you should use these people or I know every one of their business practices, because I don't. What I am saying is these are actual live people, professionals in business who are open to working with self-publishing authors, and they seem to be operating on a professional level. We've taken all the scammers out, all the rip-off places. There's none of that in the book, and we keep changing it. We're updating it constantly. So I think it's been very successful. It launched at #1 in its category on launch day. It's got about 150 reviews over there on the site. It's really a very helpful resource, and it just seems to be saving people a lot of time. And that was really the whole aim of it, was to make it easier, faster, cheaper, and safer, honestly, to find the kind of people you need. So then somebody said, well, it's just a book of lists. I could just Google stuff and get that. And that is the whole point of the book. Because if you Google developmental editors, you're going to get about 13 million hits. Well, good luck. Have fun going through all those hits to see if you can find somebody who's actually still in business. Right. So we just cut that right down. We've got a few dozen developmental editors, but we know all these people are real and they are actually editors, and they're there if they're the right people for you. So that's it. It's the Self-Publisher's Ultimate Resource Guide. And we're happy to take additions to the guide. We're always getting suggestions, so we're expanding it kind of constantly.
Yeah, and that's great. It's available in both Kindle and print. So if you prefer print, I know some of the authors that we work with, prefer print, so available in both. But with the Kindle edition, I'm sure they'll be able to get all the updates too, right?
Yeah, it's on Kindle, it's on iBooks, it's on every ebook retail platform. And for the updates, it really just depends on which retailer you buy it from. Now, on Amazon, they will update the book, and then we'll be sending out a notice probably in about 2 weeks to let people know they should go into their library and re-download the book. They'll get the freshest version. And that kind of facility is also available on iBooks. They do updates, and bn.com. Now, some of them don't. So it just kind of depends where you're buying your retail from. If it's a Kindle, yes, you will get an updated copy free of charge for the next year. And I really like the ebook version, of course, because why buy a book of links in print? That really doesn't appeal to me, because you'd have to type them all in. Now, I know people like print books, and I love print books, but in this case, I think the ebook is far superior because all the links are live. You just click it, and you're there.
Yeah, and it was interesting because recently my editor decided to close shop, and so I'm like, I need to look for a new editor, and I just decided to ask people for referrals and see who they're using and just get some ideas. And someone actually mentioned your book. I'm like, oh yeah, I have that book. They're like, you should look in Joel's book, The Self-Publisher's Ultimate Resource Guide.
Absolutely.
I'm like, oh yeah, that is a book that I have. I need to look at it.
I'm one of those paperback book people, and I had just bought your book like just now as you guys were chatting, because I'm like, dang it, I need this book. And I do prefer paperback, especially for resource guides and stuff. And well, you convinced me that Kindle's probably better because I'll get all the updates. So I just canceled that order. And I'm going back to it right now. You can hear me typing.
I can hear the keyboard going. No, you'll be happy, Kristen. I mean, it's a good deal, and you'll save a few bucks too. What's the matter with that? Yeah. Look, I love print books. I like writing in them. I like to put it next to me on the desk while I'm working. But I mean, sometimes it just isn't the right format, and you got to be really happy to be able to have an ebook. So.
Yeah, and what I love is that we're all busy people. We all have 1,000,002 things to do. And as authors, we're doing marketing, we're writing more books, we're doing all this stuff. And so anything that can save us time. And what you've done is you've compiled all of these resources. Yes, we could search it. Yes, we could look it up. But you know how many hours it would take to compile what you've compiled in that book? I mean, a long time. And so it definitely is a time saver. And, if you're looking for a service provider, if you're looking for, different things like that for your book, definitely get this and keep it as a resource to use in the years to come.
Yeah. How about illustrators or people who draw comic figures? They're in there. Audiobook producers.
There you go.
Blog tour companies. Anything you can really think of, I think we've got in there. Authors' assistants, publishing consultants, short-run book printers. It just goes on and on. There's about 35. The updated edition will have 35 categories. So it's been a lot of fun working on. It did take months for a team of researchers to put it together. So, I mean, I know how long it takes because that's how it did take that long.
Yeah. Now our time is winding down really quick. I mean, we could talk hours and hours and hours, but our show is about 20 minutes. And so do you have any final thoughts or a final tip for authors?
Well, I just came from the San Francisco Writers Conference where I've been doing presentations for the last few days. And I think the biggest takeaway I really had from that experience is that publishing works the best when you really know and think about and connect with your readers and who it is you're writing for. They're not writing your book, you are. But if you really clearly have in mind the enjoyment, the benefit, the education, or like with my book, the time savings, whatever the benefit is of your book, if you really understand how that works for your readers, you're going to go really far in book publishing.
Yeah, that is a great tip. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Joel. I recommend that everybody go and get his book, The Self-Publisher's Ultimate Resource Guide. Definitely have that in your arsenal of things to have. And you can get that at booksbusinessandbeyond.com/Joel. And that will take you right to the book. Thank you so much again, Joel, and we appreciate you.
Thank you, Joel.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been great fun.
This is another edition of Books, Business, and Beyond. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
You've been listening to Books, Business, and Beyond, the show that teaches you how to maximize your income from your book to create the lifestyle you want. Visit your host, international best-selling author Shelley Hitz, and her partner in success, Kristen, the Book Ninja Eckstein, at booksbusinessandbeyond.com and grab your free gift today. Tune in next time for more ways to diversify your income beyond the book, and don't miss a single episode. Subscribe to this podcast on iTunes.